Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Jenna Grubman. I am with First Book, and I'm so excited to tune in with you today, whether that's through YouTube, Facebook, or another platform. Um, Happy to have you join us for our STEM Careers All Year virtual sessions with our partner General Motors or GM. We'll get started in just a minute as we give just a couple of seconds for folks to log in. This will be a quick chat with our pals at GM today as we dive into STEM careers and highlighting a different one for you today. So we'll just give it one more minute um, as you folks take the time to log in. So this is our second year partnering with GM and the STEM Careers All Year virtual events. This year we have our reading events as well as these short live stream Q&As with GM STEM professionals, engineers, mathematicians, leaders, all people from all over the place at GM. We're very excited to have Carrie Morton with us. But before we get to Carrie, I just want to say thank you to GM for making this possible and making each month available so you and your students, hello educators, can tune in. So this is our first Q&A session and focused on bringing people together, and we're going to hear from Carrie, who is focused on making life more accessible for everyone. Um, First, I would like to introduce, though, my partner in crime on the GM side, Kelsey Gaines, who is the STEM Education Manager at GM. Kelsey, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, thanks, Jenna. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Kelsey Gaines. My pronouns are she and her, and I serve as the Senior Manager of STEM Education at General Motors, which means I have the very exciting opportunity to work with nonprofits like First Book across the country. At GM, we're working to become the most inclusive company in the world, and we know that we have a responsibility to make STEM education more accessible and equitable. We want to make sure that students just like you are making up the next generation of innovators and leaders in STEM. And as you'll learn more about today, STEM is everywhere in your classroom, outside, and everything we do. And it's so important for all of us to make sure we feel confident as we think about STEM education. And we're super excited to welcome you all today and be working with First Book on this STEM Careers All Year series. And be sure to tune in next month as well for the next event we'll be hosting. Before I bring up Carrie, just wanted to remind folks that we will be taking some questions from the audience. So as Carrie begins to kick off here momentarily, feel free to drop questions in the chat and we'll be sure to get them to her in just a little bit. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Carrie Morton, the Chief Engineer for Accessibility at General Motors.
Kelsey, thank you so much. Again, my name is Carrie Morton. My pronouns are she and her. I have dark hair. I'm wearing glasses. I have blue eyes, and I'm really excited to be here. I want to thank First Book for the opportunity to join you and meet you all today. A little bit of background about how I became the chief engineer for accessibility at GM. I always had a passion as a child for things that moved. Bicycles, boats, planes, cars. I did a lot of monkeying around with cars when I was a kid. And I also liked math and science. That's what I gravitated toward. And so it became a natural fit for me when I was in high school to think about going to college to pursue a degree in engineering. So I have an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, and I have a master's degree in automotive engineering, both from the University of Michigan. So go blue for any Michigan fans out there. But I started my journey in my career tuning engines. What a dream job. Basically, I was working to make sure that vehicles had clean emissions and that they drove properly and got you where you wanted to go whenever you needed them to. And that evolved eventually. I was working on production solutions for cars that would be in your driveway. But then I started asking more questions about how could we make these engines cleaner? How could we make them operate more efficiently and use less fuel? So then I was doing that in industry and eventually moved into academia. So I went back to school and I went back to the university where I got my degree and helped to lead research centers on clean vehicle research technology in a partnership between the US government and the Chinese government. So what an amazing collaboration. And then eventually those questions, as we were answering those, new technologies that were emerging, and I was always following my curiosity in my career. So then I started working on automated vehicle technology. Now that we know we can make cars cleaner and we can shift to EV technology, what if cars can drive themselves? What does that open up for society and for all of us? And what questions do we need to answer before we can do that? So I was working on research there as well. And then eventually, my curiosity was leading me further. And as we were deploying or putting automated vehicles out on the road to begin to test them, we realized that this was an opportunity in time to make sure that everyone could use them. And some of these vehicles, not everyone could use. And this is the first time in the history of the auto industry we were redesigning vehicles from the ground up. And so I started to get interested in accessibility and making sure that people who are blind or have low vision or wheelchair users could also use these vehicles as well, since we have this moment in time to redesign vehicles as we know them. And eventually that led me to my job at General Motors, where I am the chief engineer of accessibility. And basically my job, I say, is the best job at General Motors. I get to use my engineering skills and all my other leadership and management skills I've acquired over my career to help make sure that when you see here, our theme is, or our logo is everybody in. And when we say everybody in at GM, we want to make sure that we understand what does it mean to make sure that people with disabilities can also use all of our products and services. So if you're a wheelchair user, how might you be able to use our vehicles? So it's really exciting time at GM. As far as we know, my role is the first in the auto industry. And so I'm really proud to help GM on this journey. It's a very exciting time knowing that we're going to have a huge impact on many, many lives. A little bit about me as a person. I have two boys. They're very active. They're 15 and 17. And so I think a lot about their future in transportation. And already one of them is driving and the other one just finished driver's ed. I'm married. My husband is also an engineer. We met in the auto industry in Germany, and he is actually from Scotland and he wears a kilt. We have a dog named Lola. She's a Bernedoodle. She's very cute. I enjoy downhill skiing in the wintertime in Michigan and going out west. And I'm an avid sailor. I have my Coast Guard captain's license. So in the summer, you'll find me on Lake Michigan, and it's a great release for our family. But also we find we use our engineering skills all the time, because if you own a boat, you know that there's always something broken on a boat. So it's actually kind of a relaxing way to use my engineering skills. But I would say that just wrapping up on that career, I'm so passionate for making sure that our future products are accessible. And a big part of that, or the reason, is because we know that people with disabilities who don't have access to education, who can't get to school, who can't get to their jobs, it's a barrier for them for future success and independence in their life. So making sure that our future products are accessible will just enable so many people to do the things that we may take for granted and that we have access to. And for me, it gets back to that original passion that I always had around mobility. And I love that freedom that I have in boats and cars. And I just want to make sure that everyone else has that same freedom and independence as well. So thank you very much for having me. And it's lovely to get to speak to all of you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Carrie. I very much enjoyed getting to hear a little bit more about your STEM journey, and what a fun and exciting and innovative journey that's been. Um, I think we're starting to get some questions in here from the audience. So, the first one I think we'll take is, can you tell us a little bit more about who your STEM role model was growing up?
Sure. So I actually probably had two STEM role models, if I think about it. My father grew up on a farm, but he was a physicist before he was an engineer. And his father, as a farmer, what I saw was he was an engineer by practice, but not by education. And the constant innovations at the farm and at our house between my father and grandfather were just, they captured my imagination. And it was an exciting thought to follow in their footsteps and be an innovator for my generation, like I saw as they were. So those were my two biggest mentors.
That is quite special, and I think so important to keep in mind for students that you don't necessarily have to have a STEM degree or STEM education to use STEM in your life. I think that's a really, really important message. Um, Next question. Let's see what we've got here. How can students be more inclusive and promote accessibility in their everyday lives?
Well, that's a great question. I think first it's about having empathy for everyone around you and understanding their situation and seeking to listen and learn. It starts with listening and learning. Making sure that when you are together or when you intend to be together, that there's a place for everyone to be there and a manner for them to be there. You might have noticed I described what I looked like to all of you, and that's because we may have friends out there who are have vision impairment or low vision, and so I wanted to make sure that they were included and that they could understand what I looked like, even if they weren't able to see. So by making sure that we provide the ability for everyone to join in a way that meets their needs, we bring everyone together. And when we bring everyone together, we have better ideas, we have diversity of thought. We drive for that in our own team as well. So making sure that there is room for everyone and their needs is really important.
That is such insightful information and really important perspective to keep in mind. Well, let's see here what other questions we may have coming in. What would you say to girls who feel like STEM isn't attainable for them?
That's a great question. And I think for me, I was very lucky, even though I didn't have a female engineering role model directly in my life. My family supported me. They never said you can't because you're a girl. So I think what you need to do is find people who see your passion and who will support that. But if I can do it, believe me, all of you can do it.
That's wonderful advice, and I think really speaks creating a community around you as you pursue your education and your journey. It's so impactful when you can create a really supportive network around you.
Absolutely.
And on that same note, I'm just curious, and would love to ask you a question. What would you say to students that may not feel super confident in things like math and science, and how do you think that they could succeed or push past some of those roadblocks in
Sure.
self-esteem and confidence?
I think some of that comes from, again, community. So look around your school. Many schools have math clubs, science clubs. Find friends who identify with those interests and make yourself part of that community. Because I think coming from a STEM background, we love more friends with STEM. So find yourself in that community. Also think about how you learn. We all learn differently. And some of us are visual learners. Some of us learn better through games and other mechanisms. But think about how you learn and be an advocate for yourself. Your teachers want to see you succeed. And so if you help them to understand what best helps you to learn, then they can help devise other ways to convey information for you. And I'll just share this personal experience. My father used to teach physics in college, and I couldn't learn any of it from him. We were like oil and water when he would try to help me with my homework. But my high school physics teacher, he taught in a way that I really understood. So if I had only listened to the way my dad was teaching physics, probably at a college level to a high schooler, I would have given up. So just keep pushing through and making sure that you can advocate for the way that you best learn.
That is a really, really great perspective, and I think some very good advice for students as they are pushing forward and getting through some of those hurdles that may be coming up. We know that things like physics are a little bit scary and intimidating sometimes, so taking a step back and making sure that it's digestible and you're comprehending it is a really good perspective. Let's see. I think we may have time for just one more question. I would, okay, let's see. How is GM working with schools to encourage students to make a greener future? And that's something I think I can actually speak to. And Carrie, feel free to jump in if you've got anything to add.
Sure.
But on the corporate giving team, we are working with a lot of different nonprofits, as I mentioned at the top of this event, focused on creating robust STEM education opportunities for students across the country. And a key component of that STEM education work we do is thinking about a more sustainable future. And we are, thinking about things in conversation with our nonprofit partners, focusing on making sure kids just like you know what they can do in their own lives to help create daily change for some of that really important sustainable work in their own communities. And with that, I think there is time for just one final question. And let's see if we've got anyone's coming in. All right, it looks like one just came in. What new accessible initiatives is our GM working on?
Well, one thing that we are working on is working with partners, because if a saying I want to leave you with is that if you want to go far, you go together. If you want to go fast, you go alone. And we know we want to go far. So we partner with companies who are expert in making our vehicles accessible that may not be today. So we're working with companies that add wheelchair lifts and ramps to our vehicles, and we're working with them very diligently to make sure that we can make that as affordable and reliable as possible. But we're also adding other features to our vehicles all the time that make them more accessible, exciting features that aren't just exciting for our disability community, but also for all of our customers. Features like Ultra Cruise and Super Cruise, where we can rely on the vehicle to drive itself and take some of that responsibility from us. So a lot of exciting activities, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for GM in this space.
How exciting and inspiring. That is such a wonderful question for us to conclude on. Thank you for sharing a little bit more on what's up next for GM and accessibility. And with that, thanks so much, Carrie, for joining us today. I will pass things back over to Jenna.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie, and thank you, Kelsey, and thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us for this STEM Careers All Year virtual session. We hope that you'll join us in December, on December 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern, as we're going to have another GM STEM professional and author, Pablo Cartia, who will be reading from his book, The Last Beekeeper. So join us in December for that event. You'll see some emails and social media posts about it and how to register soon. Um, we hope, though, that you can all take a few minutes, a very short survey that you'll see here on the screen. We hope that you can just take about 3 minutes to fill that out for us to let us know how we're doing here. And thank you again, Carrie. Thank you, Kelsey. Um, we hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you all in December.